For everyone's reference, we're arguing a little bit about like how can the left build itself. Okay,
Yeah.
I think the point that I was trying to get across, and it's very hard for me to do, so I want to preface this with, it's hard for me to do from my position of privilege to try and articulate what I'm thinking without coming off like a bit of like a chauvinist, like
Yeah.
within being a Marxist. But I think the thing that I'm mostly getting at is when it comes to like building a movement, is that if obviously a core tenet of our appeal to the masses should be towards ensuring the safety, security, integrity, and uplifting of those who are most marginalized amongst us. I also think that it should be a core tenet of ours to, while we may never get 80% support, is that we should be doing our best to also be doing outreach and appeal to the sections of society that make up the majority of society. So, like, the case I would make is like the average American is like a 20 to 40 like white person who makes less than 50,000 a year. That's the average American, regardless of their other identities on top of that. That is the average identity, like base identity. That person is working class. They are probably a little racist, and they are like ostensibly a fine person otherwise. Like that's the person that we should be aiming to capture and educate and have them be a part of the vanguard. Because if it's not a mass appeal party, right? It's like not a party of mass proletarian struggle if it doesn't include all possible sections of the proletariat, wherever they may be. I don't think that we should lead a bunch of chuds into the revolution, but I do think that we need to find them and educate them, as is our duty as Marxists, and then have them be there and be a part of moving forward so that we can not only build an equitable movement, but show that like core, that large group in the center, that uplifting those who are most marginalized around us is not scary, and in fact only makes all of us stronger. I think that's the thing I'm trying to get at. It's just hard to write down.
Yeah, yeah, it is hard to write down. This is like part of like this is where I get like this isn't trot stuff that I'm gonna get. This is very specifically
No, that's
Lefcom
okay.
Bordiga stuff. Um, I'm not in favor of necessarily politics of the mass. I'm very specifically a proletarian knight. What I don't know what the word to describe this is as like I'm very specific for in favor of the proletariat. And I guess my counter to that is one, you are never going to get the majority of people to take up arms, which is going to be a
No,
necessary
absolutely not.
precondition. Two, the people that are going to do that are going to be the most desperate and most marginalized, and those are going to be fucking weirdos. Like, let's
I agree with your point. Like, I agree with what you mean. Continue.
uh, god damn it, I need to organize my thoughts better. Is a
That's okay.
subheader. Um, and three, I don't think we necessarily need a majority. I don't even know if we need a plurality. This is again, this is where we disagree about like the Bolsheviks, right? Like, I think they were a minor, like they were objectively. I think from what I have read and what I know, I might be wrong about this. If you have sufficient historical data to correct me, I welcome it. But the Bolsheviks were a minoritarian dictatorship. They were good, historically progressive, and I support them 100%, but they did not really have mass support until after they won the Civil War. A lot
Okay.
of that,
Okay.
their ability to marshal resources was conscription and the exercise of state power coercively.
Yes. Can I? This is like the thing I feel like I need to try and like put into words. Yes, they were a minoritarian group within the broader Russian left, right? The Russian left at this point, let's say they were just about
Well,
at
also part of it
popular
was
support.
is that at the even though that Russia had been heavily proletarianized by the war and the industrial buildup leading up to it and during it, any dictatorship of the proletariat in Russia was going to be a minoritarian dictatorship, simply
Yeah,
because
just because of the nature
the
of the Russian
peasantry.
state.
Yeah, exactly. And
I
that
think
was, and fundamentally, the Bolshevik space was the proletariat. It was the industrial proletariat. It was not the peasantry. They had a pretty
yeah,
antagonistic relationship with the peasantry for a long time, and I
this
think that
is
is what I
why
mean.
I think I and I agree. But I think the thing that I'm trying to make the case for is that I don't think America has a proletariat. Like we don't have it. And so I think like part of why I'm saying we need to appeal to as many sections of society as we can is because we need to proletarianize as many people as we can so that we can build, like in my opinion, like an iteration of a Marxist-Leninist state. I don't think Marxism-Leninism applies to the United States, but I do think that
Certainly
that
not
is
the
the
way it
framework.
manifested in the USSR.
No, and I think but I do think that like at least with some tweaks, obviously, because we see the failures of the Soviet Union and we should iterate upon that.
Yeah,
Just like we
obviously.
should iterate upon the failures of China, but I do think like the democratic centralist principle of guiding the party works far better than Maoism. Like I know that they're democratic centralists, but like Maoism is its own thing. Like I think what I'm saying is we need to proletarianize people because we don't have one. We do have fundamentally an analogous system to the Russian Empire in which like
Yes.
your average
This,
wage person is not the proletariat. They don't understand what that even means. And so they would need to be created. They need to be created from scratch, which is why appealing to as many people as possible is building the most intersectional proletariat we can.
well, fundamentally, I think this is like pro being a prole, right? Being proletarian
Mm-hmm.
is not a matter of consciousness. It's not a matter of ideology. It is a matter of relationship to production, right?
Yeah, and like no, I don't want to say like they're not like these people are
But
inherently they are proletarian insofar as like their relationship to capital could fit into that mold,
yes,
but not
but here's the thing.
entirely.
Here's the thing. I agree with you, and I actually have.
Okay.
So I read the 18th Brumaire of Louis Napoleon a couple months ago, right? And the thing that really
Okay.
struck out to me was the stuff about the peasantry. You know, the
Mm-hmm.
potatoes and the sack of potatoes. Because fundamentally, what Marx is laying out is that the somewhat self-sufficiency of the peasant community and like individual peasant, like small home holder, kind of yeoman farmers in
Mm-hmm.
France in the 19th century means that they are. This is what the potatoes and the sack of potato means. They are fundamentally not conscious of they're not a class. They're just like this lumping of individuals together,
They're the
right?
lumpen proletariat.
That is not what he means.
No, no, that's not what he
Lumpen
means. But
proletariat is a
like
different
that's
thing.
kind of
Kind of, sort of.
it's
I
an
think
idea.
that
Yeah.
suburbanization and home ownership in the post-war, combined with the fact that they are proletarian class, and also the semi, for lack of a better term, I don't necessarily agree with this thesis, labor aristocracy, has effectively transformed the American proletariat into a kind of weird pseudo peasantry.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of
They are
we,
they are in a lot of ways smallholders.
yeah, exactly.
Like they are individual petty land. I'll match them up.
Fingers
Okay.
crossed. Yeah, should get
It's
us close
okay. Let
enough.
me look. So the recording 119.
Yeah.
I just write it down.
Sorry.
No,
But
no, you're fine.
yeah,
You're
I
fine.
mean that like that. Yeah, we are. Most Americans are not aware of themselves on a class basis. They are, right? Like again, potatoes in the potato sack. But back to that stuff about democratic centralism. I kind of want us to read at some point, maybe not next time, but read some Bordiga about organic centralism because I really want to hear your thoughts about that.
What book is it in?
I don't remember off the top of my head. I know a guy who's a
If you can
massive
find out, I'll
Bordiga.
go to the damn library and get it.
Yeah, yeah. You can also just probably find a PDF on Marxist.org because
I like
it's
real
probably.
books.
Here's the thing: most of the shit that Bordiga wrote wasn't in books; it was in newspapers. So even though Bordiga was not a Trotsky guy, he was spiritually Trotskyist. I think.
Yeah, but I could probably find a collected works. Like I have Thomas Sankar's collected like speeches
Yeah,
and
maybe.
writings. Like I have them.
Maybe I don't know. I'll ask around, but
But
I do think something
okay.
that it would be very useful to this conversation and the conversation we had over in the GRS server is Hinterland by Phil Neal, because that's kind of what he
I'll
talks
make
about.
you
Is
read
like
Interland.
it's really good. It's like
I
it's
know.
really It's really snappy. It is so easy to read, dude. Some of
I
the
know.
stuff in the
I'll go
and
get. You know what?
some of the
I'll go
actual
get it at the
political
library tomorrow
perfect. So,
because
uh,
I think I can walk to it.
yeah,
Wait,
I
but
mean, hey,
Jaden's not gonna have a car, but I think I'll walk to the
yeah,
library tomorrow.
yeah,
Oh,
and we can do a book club episode as our next episode.
that's fine. Oh, I need to like. This is the thing that I'm like. I grasp at. Here's your red connection, everybody, because like we didn't really do a lot of communism in this episode.
We just
Um,
talked about how fucked up Macedonia was, and then talked about America for a
but
couple minutes,
I
which that's
think
fine.
I think like this is like this constant disconnect I have, and like I kind of Ed spoke to it in the Discord, and I know like I've tried to put words like try to support what he said like in my own words, and I think this is one of the biggest disconnects I see on the left because it's not just me. Like I've experienced with this other people on the left who like we can commiserate. It's that like the left in the U.S. specifically, and I'll say the West in general more broadly. I don't have a ton of experience with them, but I'm going to say it's probably similar. It's like there are two main pathways to like becoming a communist, right? You can either be kind of maybe not born, but born. You can be born, or you can realize throughout your life that you are like a marginalized identity, and you'll search for a political solution to that, and that's how you come to the left. And then there's the other like main path, where like you are essentially just as culturally right wing as the society around you, and you have something tips you, and you realize you become a proletarian that way. You become a Marxist through that path. Um, and like I
A
came in,
conscious proletarian.
yeah, and I came through it that way. Like, I didn't come through it from being like, especially the internet has its ups and its downs. But one of its big downs is this specific split becomes a lot more marked. It's because of the way online culture has developed. Like I don't, I don't find it very easy to communicate in a Marxist way or like maybe transfer my ideas to people who came through it the other way, just like they struggle with me, because we have different frames of reference. There's different
Mm.
the different way that like someone like me who comes to the left from a certain direction, like the way I use language, the way I communicate is just different. Not that I don't like, not that I feel like either side is coming to it in bad faith or from a different place, but more so like I communicate in a different way, in a way that like at least in my opinion, like I feel like I resonate with what remnants of the American working class do exist. Um, More so than someone who comes through it from being very online, because being very online, that's an identity to itself.
Yeah.
Like, there is a way of being, a way of speaking, a way of communicating, and a way of, this is going to sound way meaner than I mean it, people at home, but like you step around feelings a lot. Like it's very tiptoey. It's very,
Ironic.
yeah, it's very gushy. Like it's just very gushy to me. Like it's annoying to me because like you can't get to the meat of the issue because we're doing speech police. Like and that's and there's a right way and a wrong way to speak. Obviously, like
Yeah.
you can do say things without being offensive. Like I make sure I try to do my damnedest. Um, but like that is where there's a huge disconnect, especially in like big organizing spaces. So like the DSA and the PSL, the only two big-ish organizations in this country, they're mainly filled with people from that online space because the actual like the this is going to sound worse again too, but I don't know how to say it. Like the salt of the earth working class, like the framer or like the union guy, has a different way of communicating and expressing their political opinions than someone who's very online. And so you put them in the same room, they fucking
Oh
hate
my
each other.
god. Yeah.
They fucking hate each
Yeah.
other. Like I briefly like drew upon this. It's like my own father's a good example. He's kind of self-radicalized over the last few months. He watched the entire fucking Yellow Parenti speech, and I'm so proud of him. But like Parenti's a good example of like he can speak to the working class in a way that they understand
Yeah.
without
I mean,
being so condescending. Like it's
yeah,
without being it's the lack of condescension.
that's like the tightrope you gotta walk, right? It's like you cannot be condescending, you also have to communicate the ideas clearly, and you can't talk down to them, right?
Yeah,
Or
and I think like
that's
the
part of the problem.
DSA.
It's them, right? That it is something separate from you instead of
Mhm.
like
It's
that.
we're all supposed to be one, but there's this very and this is why the DSA is very unpalatable to the actual to like people in real life, because the DSA for all of its hype and all the things it does accomplish is very online.
Yes.
Like,
Oh
and
my
that's
God.
like people in real life can't relate to them. Like my own father, like if I send him into a DSA meeting without me being there to like mediate what they're saying to him, he would never want to be on the left again. He wouldn't want to be a part of it because it
Yeah.
feels like they're talking down to him and they're telling him that the 50 years of his life that he's built a worldview around are not only wrong but are invalid.
Mm.
And so like like good example, like I've been working with him on reframing how he talks about the current administration, where he'll say things he's like, this is like communist Russia, or like this is like fucking Mao's China. I'm like, well, actually, no, this is worse. Um, and like you have to like reframe the way that they view things because there is like for that person who's in that union or like my father is a tradesman. I don't even know if he's probably actually the most he's an independent contractor. It's kind of a petty bouge, but not really.
Again,
Like
it's
the
that
core.
weird labor
You're in that.
aristocrat, like
You're in like
potato in the potato
you're
sack.
exactly like where he's becoming class conscious, but there's no good play. There's no silo for that because American society is different. Like what we are is different. We are exceptional in that way. In that like we've created a system so beautifully built to counteract socialist tendencies.
One of the
Um,
most remarkable things about the United States is how much of our population is petit bourgeois.
yeah, that's by design.
Yeah, except well,
The
it's an
temporarily
emergent
advantaged
it's a
millionaire.
it's an emergent property of the way Western expansion and like the national mythos. Like, I'm very much part of my weird autism is that I do not like the constant refrain of intentionality behind things. So much shit is
Is
conditional.
unintentional.
It is
Yeah,
emergent. Is contingent. Right? It's just like
yeah, yeah.
capitalism was not intentional, and that's like part of my. I talked a lot about this. This is part of like my weird thing is that I think part of communists or someone like communists or some kind of post-capitalism coming into power, coming like creating a new social order or a new social formation, right?
Hmm.
It's going to be like capitalism coming into power insofar as it is going to outcompete capitalism in terms of questions of sustenance, questions of mobilization, and
Hmm.
questions of production, right? And
Yeah,
effective production.
yeah. And I
That's
think
like
that's
part of my weird refrain about like the 30 Years
no
War.
that makes total sense to me. Like, because I do think like, and Marx does too, and like lots of Marxists also do. But like, there are foundational texts to like, if you're going to read Marxism, you should also probably be reading Adam Smith.
Yeah, I mean,
Like, it's
there's
important because like Adam Smith is much like Marx. This is going to be maybe controversial. Much like Marx, like Adam Smith is not like I wouldn't call him a capitalist so much as I would call him the scribe that wrote down what the system does.
he's a sociologist. He's one of the
He's
first
a sociologist.
sociologists.
He's a lot like Weber in that way, where it's like you're writing down what's happening, and but you're not. He's not like Smith makes good arguments against capitalism even within his foundational text.
Yeah,
Like
from
he's
like
just
a
saying
weird
what it is.
like Adam Smith is from like such an early point in capitalism where like he can't really articulate a proper materialist anti-capitalism.
Yeah, like, but he is like you even see him in his works. Like I remember so very clearly. Like, I remember reading some of this in college, and it's like he's articulating against like landlordism. Like
Yeah,
he very clearly articulates against it. He just doesn't have a good material analysis for like what's the alternative
yeah,
because
yeah,
because state capacity doesn't exist at that point for things like this.
yeah.
Um,
Oh, also, I rewatched The Big Short on Saturday.
that's so fun, isn't it?
It's such a good movie, but one of the
It's a
things
great
that
movie.
really it's so Adam McKay is an incredible filmmaker when he wants to be.
Only
Like
when he wants to be though.
only when he wants to be. One of the great works of like polemic of the 21st century.
Hmm.
Um, but one of the things that I took away from it is how heavily bureaucratized like the modern bourgeoisie is.
Yeah.
Because like, there are individual billionaires that control enormous amounts of wealth. Like Musk's is almost entirely fictitious and he's overleveraged to shit, but that's part of why he's moving to politics. Bezos controls like what 100 million. Yada, yada, yada. Matt? I looked it up. You know how much the largest investment firm on the planet controls?
I don't know how much.
4.2 trillion.
Yeah, that tracks.
So like in terms of actual assets that they control and like manage, that is like literally an order of magnitude above
Yeah,
all
like your
like the
BlackRocks
individual
are far more
bourgeoisie.
powerful than like your Elon Musk. It's just that
And
BlackRock understands how to wield the power in a
and
way that
one,
doesn't make them a target.
these are bureaucratized to hell and back, right? Like
Hmm.
an asset manager is a bureaucrat. A risk man, you are a bureaucrat in a
Yeah, I am.
small
I am a
bank.
functionary. I'm a
Yeah,
functionary.
they are so like, if anything, I think compared to like Gosplan, I think the Soviets were under bureaucratized compared to capital to like
Yeah,
the United
like
States.
capitalism is inefficiently bureaucratized is the
Exactly.
difference.
And that is like part of like what I think. I don't like using the word dual power because it is that refers to a very specific political arrangement in post February 1917 Petrograd, where you have effectively two civil governments like working
Hmm.
with and against each other. But like parastate power by any kind of movement or party, I think is extremely important.
I would say
Which,
parallel power.
yeah, parastate in the same way as like a paramilitary,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that
And I
means
think
all of you at home, learn fucking Excel if you want to be useful.
yeah, I do think like that's another thing that I come across a lot, like in my interactions with like part of why I feel like I have such like there's a disconnect sometimes because like I am my class position. My class position is I am proletarian.
Yes.
Like my line of work, like the fact that I work for the banks, like that does not alienate me from the fact that I am in the proletarian position because like I am like the educated class conscious Marxist. Like I am part of
It,
the proletariat.
the only property that you have to sell to make money is your labor time.
My car.
But fundamentally,
But you know,
like
fundamentally,
that is how
I
you
sell
make your
my
income.
labor. And I
Exactly.
also think that this is like where I run into these issues where like I want to talk about like the organization of the left, right? And the left, as it were, right now, like you are proletarian. You are proletarian.
Yeah.
But like you and I can have this discussion where we go, well, let's organize the left. Whereas like a lot of people who are ostensibly the left, like I'm just gonna sorry to shit on DSA. They do a lot of great work, but I'm gonna shit on them for a second. It's there's a large contingent within it that is like of they're marks, like they are like philosophers, like they're artisans. There's not like you need me to do the revolution because
You
I can organize the state. Like I
yeah,
don't need 40 people selling like art they make on fucking Microsoft Paint. Like those
yeah,
people can't provide. They're not proletarian. You don't provide. You don't
yeah, well, and
create.
part of the reason why the artisan class is such a big basis of DSA is because they're the only people with spare time.
Yeah, like they are like Marx is a lot of things, but he's also like a chronic layabout.
Oh,
Like that's
one
what he
Prussian
is.
police spies
Hmm.
accounting of how he spends his
He just
day.
drinks all day, wakes up in
Y-
the middle of the fucking day,
Yeah.
drinks all
God,
night,
I
does
wish that
whatever he
was
wants.
me.
But like, me too. But that's the thing. It's like because of the section of society that has free time, is this like artisan class? Like they are a separate, because they are a distinct class. It's also why there is like a communication issue between like people who like weld and like people who like make tchotchkes to sell online. Like
Yeah.
because you're fundamentally different classes. And I have this problem where it's like I want to organize the left. I want to do a thing, like create a system. What I do is risk management. That's what I do in the capitalist world. It's what I do in the capitalist mode of production. And it's not like I love doing risk management. It's just I'm good at it. It comes naturally to me. I'm quite good at organizing things logistically and creating and adapting the safeguards, the rails that kind of hold an organization together. That's what I do. There's not that many people, partially because just like the DSA doesn't like target the working class who can be proletarianized within the physical labors of the world, the blue collar parts of the labor world. They also don't really target people in my class, like in my area of like the proletarian sphere,
The
people who can
white
be
collar,
proletarianized.
white
Yeah,
white
the
collar people. So
white
which
collar
I think
functionaries.
is like both of us. We're both somewhat white collar functionaries, which is
I'm definitely white collar.
yeah. I mean, I so am I. I mean, I work in an engineering office. Like
Yeah.
Those are like the two
When do you see
archetypal
the
white-collar
left
professions,
doesn't?
engineering and finance.
Yeah, the current American left, its current iteration, doesn't even look for us. And like in the past, prior American socialist movements, some that were successful, like the socialist movement is why we have Social Security. Like
Yeah.
that involves a lot of people who worked in banking, people who worked in engineering. These were people who were heavily proletarianized and were able to not only articulate their demands, but write them down and create them and just put them on the capitalist administration's desk and say, sign here. Like it's
Yeah.
we lack that institutional knowledge. It's like I'd love to proletarianize my fucking coworkers, but I don't have institutional backing to do so.
Yeah.
And
Well,
and
and
we
also
lack those structures.
part a lot of it is the fact that we can't really take a risk. We don't know that we have some people who are willing to provide us with housing, with money, with food.
And you know,
If you get arrested on and during a riot, you don't know that you'll have a good legal defense. You don't know
this
that
is
you'll have people
something
willing to go to bat for you.
I talked about this with Austin when we in the Lost episode. Is that there's this concept that I've been trying to work on and articulate and like maybe write down in some way, just without it sounding like a fucking psychopath's manifesto. But like, it's not okay to die.
Yeah.
It's not safe to die. And one thing that all revolutionary movements that have seen any modicum of success, whether it be the Bolsheviks, the Cubans, even the Zapatistas, is that they built an organizational structure that made it safe for you to die. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you die, like literally, but it made it safe for you to suffer some sort of social death, some sort of economic death, and as the contradictions heighten, a physical one. In that, if something were to happen to me, if I were to actually stand up and pursue socialist values and pursue it and attempt to build that organization, I would suffer two deaths. I would suffer a social death in the sense that I would become alienated from those around me as a cause of my economic death, which would mean the loss of my job, my income, probably my housing, my ability to feed myself and provide for not only myself, but my family. I have a wife. They're not real kids, but I have pets. These are things that make it I can't take a risk because who's going to provide for them, right?
Parastate.
There is
we need to build a parallel state.
We don't have that because we don't have this parallel state structure. I can never take a risk, and I'm saying this guys. I do risk management. I can't take a risk until we build the parallel structures. As much as I would love to help build those parallel structures, it is on people with more time than me to build that.
Yeah.
And to separate, the DSA has this problem and the PSL has this problem, where they're financially tied to this financial system that would cut them off the minute they did anything outside of what the state allows.
Yeah.
And so that's another thing that the Bolsheviks had to do, and the Maoists had to do. What the CPC had to do is separate their to create a parallel financial system as well. You use as American dollars, I don't give a shit, but keep that money somewhere where it can be used. Because if I want to take a risk, I need my housing covered. I need to eat. I need to provide some semblance. You don't have to keep me. I make $80,000 a year. You don't have to give me that, but you have to give me enough to survive.
Yeah.
And if we don't build those things, it's not okay to die.
Yeah, I mean, pillarization, basically the construction of an entire, essentially a parallel society, right? The communists have their own newspaper, they have their own social clubs, they have their own housing. Would be an enormously important part of one, building that capacity to act because it becomes safe to die, as you put it. That is poetry.
Thank you.
And two, it turns us into a mass party because we're actually offering shit to people.
And that's the thing. It's we're not. This is
and
part of
that
the
is
reason
how
why
you.
It's hard to.
And that is how you address questions of sustenance, which is capitalism is becoming unable to answer, and that is how you.
Thing. This is the crux of it for me. Is so I know how big the PSL is. I have an idea of how big they are, and we kind of have an idea of how big the DSA is. The DSA is a lot more paper members than even the PSL is, but it's fair to say that like both of those orgs put together, as the two largest, it's their duty A to probably guide the left, and B to like subsume smaller groups into a larger mass party. Which then we can do our fucking Bolsheviks killing the Mensheviks thing later. Right now we need to focus on this. Like that's kind of the thing. It's like everybody needs to understand. Like that's going to be the unspoken rule here of building the left. Is not all of us are going to be part of the bureaucracy when it's over. But
Yeah.
the thing is that both of those parties, like the DSA, not really a party, but I'm going to call it one for the sake of this, they have a lot of money, like a lot more money than you or I have.
Oh
They
my
have
God, yeah.
millions of dollars,
Like
millions,
what? Hundreds of like at least 100,000 dues paying members.
100,000 dues paying members, a little less than that actually. It's like 96,000 last time I checked for the DSA.
Still.
If everybody and not everybody's giving fucking $20 a month, but like they have a few $1,000,000 just sitting in their war chest. They don't use on much other than seemingly to endorse candidates who will immediately contradict them. And the PSL too, like they have a lot of money. And I will say the PSL does a lot of good work. But I think both of these groups would be better served by picking a few cities to start, some cities with some potential, buying a fucking block, and building housing on it. Start there. Have people who you are paying, who you are keeping on a payroll, to be professional organizers and revolutionaries. The PSL does this. They just don't give enough money for that person to like not also have to work.
Yeah.
And it's
the
like
thing is,
if you don't,
the DSA,
you need to professionalize it.
This was a big thing that happened with the DSA on Twitter a couple months ago. Was the question of should the DSA staff organized and unionize? And a lot of people that I kind of agree with said that, well, if the DSA wants to be a fucking party, no, they should be ultimately subordinate to party membership and party leadership.
Exactly.
You need to sacrifice a degree of autonomy in order to be like a professional party
people
functionary.
Forget because the DSA exploded in growth when it did. People forget like what the DSA was. Which was like a far more libertarian split off of the Socialist Party of the United States.
It was the fucking Harringtonites. Like, they were fucking Cold Warriors. Like,
this is the problem. This is why the DSA has a Zionism problem. Like, this is like, the DSA is not built to be a party. Like, fundamentally, they would need to reorganize themselves into a party. Because what they are is, like, forgive me, and maybe this is like too much of a generalization, but like they are a massive anarchist federation.
I don't know if I'd call them. They're anarchists insofar as they're like non-proletarian socialists.
Yeah,
right.
Like each chapter has its own politics.
Yeah, it's like, like
which is not the way chapters to build.
No, it's not. Like there's no it. I describe it this way in the politics chat. It's a collection of social clubs that do a lot of charity.
Yeah, like, I know that you and I are not, like, politically, like, ideologically, we differ. I think, like, left comms and MLs can agree on, like, 85% of things.
70 to 85. I think it depends on the day and what the subject.
And what the subject is. Like, the great success of Bolshevism, of Marxism-Leninism, outside of Bolshevism, Marxism-Leninism applied across the world, is having a mass party line that you are not allowed to deviate from, especially publicly.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, I have some issues with what the consequences were from disagreeing or deviating from that line and how that line was achieved.
I also kind of disagree with, the way they dealt with people who disagreed. But like I'm saying, like, those are things that should be handled within a party congress democratically.
Absolutely, yes. Like, once a consensus is established, everybody needs to follow that fucking consensus.
That's the line. But we don't, like, the DSA doesn't have a party line, which makes them completely ineffectual. They are, for all intents and purposes, like, I would rather every single person in the DSA went to the PSL tomorrow, because the PSL will politically educate you on the party line, and then the PSL's position evolves over time because they have a party congress.
Yeah.
I disagree with a lot of things the PSL, like, some of their politics, I disagree with.
Gonna do left-com entryism to the PSL.
I don't care. Like, do it. Do it. Because, like, they institute a party line, and every chapter across the country follows it. They are lockstep. They are in unison. It is why the PSL is able to show up at protests across the country with unified messaging and with a strong turnout each time, because they have a unified party line and everyone understands that they follow it. Because when you join the PSL, they politically educate you. The DSA has an ad hoc political education system that, like, dependent on who's running it, who's doing it, depends on the tendency that you're going to hear, and depends on how effective that political education is. Because there is no, and there should be, there's no goddamn test. Nobody's asking you what you learned.
There's no standardization.
None. This is why this is why I do fundamentally believe they are doomed to be subsumed probably by the PSL, which I know DSA members will laugh at because the PSL is so much smaller. Yeah, well, the PSL can at least like have a unified statement, and the PSL for its small size has built a functioning alternative. And they've built a functioning alternative media space.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever listened to this before, but I've listened to it now every few days. There's a podcast that the PSL kind of runs. It's called The Socialist Program. It's with Brian Becker.
It's like their own version of like the Marxist Unity Group and Cosmonaut.
No, it's like NPR.
Oh, okay, well,
it's the news.
Okay. Oh, okay. That's interesting. That's kind of cool. It is
the news, and he usually brings somebody on. Sometimes it's just him like reporting things from a Marxist lens. And then sometimes he brings somebody on and they discuss stuff. Like today, I listened to the episode that came out today, and they were talking about what Musk's plan for the social security system is, and like what that means, and like why we have it, how we got there, like, and what this does to us. And like I think like they've built a successful alternative media space. Why the DSA refuses to A, do it themselves, or B, work with them. Put Hasan in their media space. This is, I think, my argument with like when I'm talking about like, and people at home are not going to necessarily get this. When I'm talking about like Hinkle, is like he is what we need. We need people like him who are ideologically educated, much better than he is. Much more ideologically educated than he is, but he is much like Hasan. He's a personality that people will listen to and believe him when he talks.
Yeah.
Like, and this is the other argument I was making, where it's like, I'm maybe personally, because of the way I became a leftist, I'm very sympathetic to him. And I like to think that he's not lying. I don't think he would put himself quite literally in danger, like, if he wasn't, like, in some way genuine. And I also think, like, he suffers from a lack of political education. I think if he had some political education, he would be more nuanced. I also think his lack of political education, like in his personal example, is useful to the left because he is blindly an anti-imperialist.
Yeah.
Like, he's very blindly an anti-imperialist, which is helpful because I do think, again, it kind of he's able to, whether the ACP has 5 members or not, he's able to speak to like this central mass that I was talking about before in plain English in a way that makes sense. Like, he can say, look what they're doing to Gazans. This is bad. And because this is not my personal viewpoint, but because he is like a straight, conventionally handsome white guy.
And he wears a suit.
He's far more palatable than, like, again, I say this with love in my heart and massive respect for these people, but like, he's far more palatable to the average person who grew up in my hometown than like some art student with fun-colored hair and like who is obviously of a different identity than like you are. Like, this is not a slight against those people. I think everyone is equally important, and you should be uplifted, and you should be a part of this organization in a decision-making capacity. But we have to think, like, what's a mass socially palatable person to get the most people to go, maybe I should listen to their news. Maybe I should join this organization. How can I get involved? And then educate them from there. I think that's where I see the use in a Hinkle figure. Now, I think, honestly, if you could politically educate Hinkle, he's useful. Look, I have no personal slight against him. I know a lot of people do. But, like, I went from being a Trump voter to being a communist. I did that. He's no different than me.
Well, the thing is, you know what Hinkle's journey is? He went from a Bernie guy to living in Russia.
He
Like
went
that's
from a
where he.
Bernie guy to a Trump supporter to being this. Yeah, I know he went to move to Russia, and that's weird. I'm not
Yeah, it's
disagreeing with it,
strange.
and I'm not disagreeing that like maybe he in some way he's a Russian intelligence asset. But much like the United States uses these people to foment to do things, to do shit. Even if Russia is like pushing a socialist in the United States to try and do something destabilizing, I don't give a shit then. Then he's helpful. The enemy of my
Yeah,
enemy is my friend. Like, does he have to make it? Does he have to be the party spokesman when we finish the revolution? No.
yeah.
Was Trotsky? Like, Trotsky was instrumental to the success of the Bolshevik Revolution. Did he live to see World War II? No. Like, I'm
Came
not
this
saying we're
close
going
though.
to kill him. I'm not going to say, yeah, he was pretty close. But I'm not saying we got to kill him. I'm
He wrote some of
saying
the best polemics against the Nazis. I gotta say.
he did. But I'm saying, like, that is a person who could be utilized. And because we're so stuck in identity politics and accusing everybody of being a grifter and accusing people, use him. If he's a tool, if he's a fucking hammer, hit a nail with him. What is, like, I don't see the disconnect. I don't see it. Because I went through, like, a political change much like him.
I think
I
fundamentally
understand it.
the
Because
disconnect is
I,
that
too. Oh, so go ahead.
my read on Hinkle is that he is fundamentally disinterested in class struggle. He is fundamentally down the bore a geopolitics guy. He is an anti-imperialist, but that is insufficient, right? Like you can
I,
be
I
you
think
can
it's
be a
insufficient.
counter-hegemonic, but you can still not be a leftist. Like right-wing
Yeah.
counter-hegemonic forces are absolutely a thing. The Putinite government in Russia is objectively right-wing.
But here's
Iran's
where I will
government is
say,
objectively
oh
right-wing.
yeah, I will say though, here's where I see like the use in him. A, because he's politically educated. Because like a lot like him, when I like first moved into being a leftist, like I was pretty blind anti-imperialist. Like I just like, anything to stick it to the West. And it's not that I wanted to support a right wing regime. Just like I'm sure like I don't think he like inherently supports a right wing regime. It's that because he has no political education. Because I don't think anybody has sat him down and made him read a book. Because he had this platform and he kind of just did this. He's just doing it, which is fine. Like
It's very funny
I want
how
to
he
think
how
of
well
him
he's done despite being so stupid.
exactly. Why not use him if he's a hammer? Get him a nail. Get him a nail. Don't let him
I,
go start his own party. Don't let him go start his own party. Bring him into the fold. Like, bring him in, educate him, and if he's willing to be educated, then he's useful. If he's not, then you ignore him. Then you cast him aside. But we're not doing either of those things. We're like
no,
randomly shitting on him, and also we're going, look at this Oriental white boy go. Like, we can't do both.
also fundamentally neither of us actually have power to do this. Like
Of course, this is on the leftist institutions that be to
we
do
we, we
so.
are we are shadowboxing each other's weird model of him that we have made in each other's head in our heads because we don't actually
I
know the
think
guy.
I
We
think
know
I'm
his
just
Twitter
far more
presence.
sympathetic to him because he reminds me of me. Like
Yeah,
on a fundamental level, he reminds me of myself. I went down a similar track, and I got here, and I like to believe I'm genuine, and I like to believe that I care.
as
I
far
don't
as
think
I
I
know,
always
you
get the
are.
analysis.
Not
Yeah,
as
and I
far
don't
as
like to
I
think.
know. You are.
Yeah,
You are.
and like
I
thank
don't
you,
mean to
and like
caveat that.
it's not even like it's like, and it's I don't always get the class analysis right. If I had a platform as big as him, I'm sure I'd be misspeaking all the time.
Mm.
I also think, like, for better or worse, the motherfucker's in Sana'a.
He,
Hassan's not in Sana'a. He can interview all the Houthis he wants, but he's not in Sana'a.
I mean, I think fundamentally the reason why Hassan isn't in Sanaa right now is because, and Hinkle is because Hinkle lives in Russia. He can.
Hinkle's
He
able to
doesn't need
get
to
there.
work.
Hinkle's able to
He's
get there.
able to get
And,
there.
like, I get that. And I get that. But we need to be going, I respect that. Because there is a chance that the next thing we hear from Hinkle is that he was killed in an American airstrike.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
sorry, are we going to ignore him still? Because I bet you we are. Even though, like, if that happens to him, first off, the Yemenis love him. The Gazans love him. He is a known figure to both of those groups.
Yeah, which,
He has, for the 20 members that everybody's like ACP has, I've seen the ACP provide material support to people around the world. Even if they have 20 members, they seem to have 20 members who give a shit. They
it
seem
is
to be legitimate enough to talk to socialist parties in other countries.
it is insanely depressing to me that that is the best that the American left can do. Is these little Mussolini clones. These are
I
the people
agree.
who are actually doing shit. It's so fucking depressing. That's part of
It
why
is.
I'm so belligerent about this, is because it makes me feel like shit. It's
It
so,
doesn't feel good, but it feels better than like no Americans doing something.
I don't know, it almost feels worse to me.
I look, the ACT for what it is like politically. Like I read through their charter. I read through their documentation. They seem poorly educated, but like they seem to have come to their own conclusion that they want to try and do some sort of Leninism. They just don't understand enough about Leninism to do it. Um,
They've rediscovered Lassalleanism.
yeah, like they're because nobody on the left wants to engage with them because they're too busy arguing about fucking mug and bread and roses. Like somebody just
Uh,
politically engage with them. Politically engage with them. Help them because like it or not, like
at least
that
make the
is a
attempt.
figure. Yeah, make the fucking attempt because right now you look like fucking morons. You're letting the ACP with its 500 members total go talk to the Socialist Party of Turkey, go talk to the Socialist Party of Russia, which is fucking nut jobs. But like, go talk to the socialist parties they're in fucking Central Asia for no reason. They're just fucking out there establishing communities, establishing contact with communist parties from the fucking old Eastern Bloc. What are we
I mean,
doing?
I also see part of that is like, well, how the fuck are they doing that? Where are they getting the money to do that? Like, that's why I see a lot of people talking about, are these guys feds?
I don't think they're
Because
feds. I think a lot of like they're flying to wherever it is, somewhere cheap, like Pakistan, and then they're getting on an even cheaper flight from Pakistan to Central Asia. Because like this is the other thing. It's like white dudes in their 20s are just absolutely fearless. Like they're not worried about. They're just going.
they're, you know what they are? They're like, like
They're
they're like
adventurous.
a they're like there's that one fucking British fucker who what Lord
Lord
Miles who
Miles.
went to Afghanistan. They're like fucking.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna be uncharitable here. I apologize. They're like red brown Lord Miles.
I don't even think that the ACP is like red brown. I think they lack an analysis, and so they're trying to be left populists, but they
They're
lack like the Marxist the they lack the documentation. Quite
well, the thing
honestly,
is that fundamentally, when you try to do left populism without good theory and without good documentation and
you do a
without
red
good,
brown alliance.
you do Mussolini. That is what Mussolini is. Is like somebody who,
Mussolini was far worse because he was smart.
yeah, that's true.
Kind of the
He knew
problem.
better.
But like
Mussolini knew
this
better.
is my thing. It's like I think like a Hinkle figure could be useful if the left would even try to politically engage with him without alternatingly dunking on him and then going, "Look at him, look where he is." Because like at a face value, he's doing something far cooler and quite honestly, far more materialistically supportive to like the Houthis and Gaza than like most American leftists are doing. Because holding a sign in your fucking university's quad does nothing except get you expelled, and then because there's no fucking real organizations around you, you're fucked. At least a motherfucker showed up, and they're giving him the time of day. Clearly, they think he's legit. I don't think everybody in Yemen's stupid, and I'm
Yeah,
sure they're using him politically too. They're using him politically because he's a white face,
yeah,
willing to put
yeah,
his neck out there for him, willing to put his neck out there for them.
yeah. I mean, well,
Why not use that as the left? What again? If he's a hammer, find him a fucking nail.
I mean, part of the reason why is like we've talked about. There's nothing. There's
There's no
nothing to use.
institution.
There's like, well, the thing is, in order to like use a hammer, you need a fucking arm. You like,
Yeah, we don't have an arm, and quite honestly, like the DSA especially, because it lacks a centralized structure, because it lacks a party bureaucracy, as it were. Every chapter, every chapter may have 5 nails that they want to hit, which means at a national level, there's 10,000 nails, and everyone is calling for their nail to be struck first. We need to build the organizations. And like that's why I'm like, Hinkle, I think he's a good gateway if the left will do something in whatever diminished capacity he has now to like bring the people that he draws in into their organizations. Because I don't think Hinkle would even know this. And they need to be using this time because I think we have limited time
Oh my god, we
to
have like what,
build.
maybe 20 years at
I don't
most?
think we have that. I actually, based on the conversation I had with Austin in the Lost episode, I think we have 10 max because I think that there's a there's a real possibility that a few things happen. First off, that we just don't really have elections, as it were. Like they're already kind of a sham, but like I think there's a
Oh, I
decent
was
chance
just
that
talking
like
about global warming.
oh maybe this is my unbreakable human spirit, but like yeah, it's gonna kill a lot of people. It's not gonna kill all of us. Like I think we'll survive
Oh
it.
no, it's not going to kill all of us. What I'm worried about is it killing the capacity for industrial civilization, because once that happens, there is no coming back from that. We are out of
I
fossil
kind of
fuels.
think
We are out of steel. Now, I do think extremely complicated, low energy civilization is an option. I just think that's a much worse alternative. I think
well I
one, that'll
kind of
take
think
at least 500 years to organize, and two, that is much less preferable than communism.
I also kind of think that's why capital hasn't overthrown like a Trump yet, because I think capital subconsciously, obviously this is not like a conversation. I think capital knows it's got one last spurt of innovative growth left because for all of its evils, capitalism has been highly innovative to to like not only America but the world. And so I think it's got one last gasp in it, which will be to get us over that hill. If we're
I don't
still
know,
if
man.
we're yeah, I think they will because I think it'll just be forced nuclearization and there'll be a lot of genocide, but I think it'll be forced nuclearization of the majority of power, the move to renewables, and a move to probably alternative methods of farming. Because outside of that, the world can get as hot as it wants if people can a keep moving north and keep moving south, and we can nuclearize our power. I think that's it. Because I do think I do believe in the human spirit. I'm a human being. I think we will overcome it. I don't think it'll put us in a 500-year dark age, but I do think it'll put us in a 50-year, fucking 30 years war scenario.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's
Like
probably, I think, what's gonna
I
end
do
up
think it because I
happening
also don't
is
think I don't think the world will ever turn to nuclear violence. I don't think it will. I don't think it. I think there is a self-preservation button that all human beings hit.
I think that 50 years war scenario you just set up, I'd say at least three nukes get dropped
I'd
over
say
the course of
tactical
those
nukes,
50
and
years.
I say much like it ended the Second World War, it ends it.
Mm, mm.
It's a
I
final. It's a final stop now.
I will say I do think that those nuclear weapons will be used very useful for periodization. I do not know if they will end it.
It will be useful
Um,
for periodization. But I think it'll. I think it'll determine who comes out. But my point
God,
being,
I
my point
wish I
being,
could be born 500 years later so I could be a historian of that period, because I bet from a
I
distance it would
know,
be fucking fascinating.
I know, but I do think like truly, we have like 10 years before like we're we're gonna like. It sucks. It's weird to say this. We have 10 years left before someone else is gonna have to save us because Americans are not gonna be able to save themselves. Like I think we have maybe 10 years because we have to build the institutions, convince enough people to join those institutions, and then do what we can to seize power in 10 years or less. Because
I
I
mean,
think
the
if it's
Bolsheviks. How long did it take the Bolsheviks to do that? Probably
the
12 years
Bolsheviks,
after 1905.
12 years, and like if the February Revolution didn't happen, they would have never had it. They would have never had their moment.
Well, let's hope we get a liberal
This is
Kerensky, a
yeah.
Democrat Kerensky sometime in the next
This is
couple of
my
years.
thing. I think ours will
Can't
look a
believe
little
I
different. I
I
think
can't
ours
believe
will be a
I'm
military movement.
waiting. I cannot. Oh God, I cannot believe I'm rooting for American Kerensky now.
He was better than the Tsar.
Let's
Low
put the
bar, but he was
low
better than the
bar, but
Tsar.
I mean that's one of my interesting counterfactuals is that I think that if Kerensky had somehow, like by the skin of his teeth, held on to power, extremely unlikely, I think Russia looks a lot like Mexico, because you have this like pseudo leftist, developmentalist like regime that like holds on to power for like at least 50 years, like the PRI.
I think Russia looks like India.
Halfway between India and Mexico, where you still have like these holdovers of feudal power arrangements, but
Yeah,
you still have this like developmentalist regime that
but I
like
think it looks more like India because I think that like that kind of feudal class system, that caste system almost. I don't think it like it's not really fully eradicated until the Bolsheviks are in power, like
Yeah.
the serf relation. And I don't think under a Kerensky government it would have ever been fully abolished. There
No,
would
no,
have
no,
just been a
no. Yeah.
permanent. There would have been a permanent underclass to Russian society, which like for all of its ills and for the
And
fact
that
that
would
it
have
is
been
run by right wing oligarchs, like Russia today is far more egalitarian than
yeah.
America is.
And the thing is that, well, there's also the fact that having a medieval style peasantry undergirding your industrial economy places hard limits upon it.
Hmm.
Like, that's
Hmm.
why collectivization happened, is
Yeah,
because the 5 year plans were outgrowing the ability
the
uh,
state or
for
the economy to keep
for
up.
the not the communes, but like the peasant holdouts, the peasant
Yeah,
communes, to provide, and also the kulak system and all that shit.
you
Um,
gotta fucking kill them
like
for that.
communi like here's the thing, like the collectivizations had to happen. They like you can talk about whether or not they were cool or moral. I think objectively they
Hmm.
were pretty fucking awful for the people who were on the other end of it,
Yeah,
but it had to happen somehow.
yeah, and that's kind of the thing is like, and then again, I think like people from my class point of view, I guess, is like not that I'm a violent person, but like I'm just far more of a realist in that sense because I think a lot of people who came to the left through that online pathway are at heart like they're bleeding heart liberals. Like they're not willing to say it or even think of it. Like that sometimes like bad things are going to have to happen for good things to happen.
Yeah, like, well, the thing is
Um
that I that's kind of how I came to it. I was just like, a soft, squishy little liberal in high school that like read a bit of Marx in English class. I was like, this guy has some right ideas. Like, I was like a generic social
mhm.
democrat, and then did that, and I'm also a very technically minded person, so like the technocracy of a lot of Marxist stuff appealed to me. And also we're gonna have to end this very quickly, so this is gonna be a final note.
Okay.
I get closing note. Oh shit, my power
Is that
just
your
flickered.
power?
Yeah.
Are you
There's
still
a
recording?
massive thunderstorm happening out right now. I'm still recording.
Oh, okay.
Um,
So
uh,
let's yeah,
it
tie it up, tie it up.
is that one, technocratic elements appeal to me, and like object. I am the materialism appealed to me. I am very materialist. I'm very hard nosed. Let's look at like what's happening on the ground. That's why I fucking love Origi and like Perry Anderson. Is I love political economy, and it's
Yeah.
also the fact, and also being traumatized. Like, let's be frank, by 4 years of Trump, then COVID, and then the mediocrity. Well, mostly just the 4 years of Trump and then COVID. Right?
Yeah.
I'm I think much more hard nosed about a lot of this type of stuff than a lot of other people are. In addition to just reading a lot about history and knowing how this shit
Yeah,
goes.
knowing how this plays out in real life, not just like in a Twitter thread. Like, I think that's like the biggest thing we're gonna have to overcome. I'm gonna go ahead and say let's end it here.
Yes, this was a very good
This has
discussion. We went
this was a
way
great
longer.
discussion. We did
I'm
go
sure
way long.
you'll be able to carve this into an excellent like hour and a half.
I think what I'm actually gonna do is this is gonna be 2 episodes. I am going to end our because we did a real nice clean divide between our
Yeah, 1 hour,
conversations.
1 hour.
1 hour, 1 hour. So congratulations, everybody. You're going to get 2 episodes because I fucked up.
We might
I
actually
didn't
have
give
a
you one
regular
last time.
schedule for a couple weeks.
Yeah. So I thank you if you've listened all the way through. We're looking forward to giving you more content and having more kind of maybe this is a little bit more organized. I kind of enjoyed this.
Yeah.
Like more so than the way we were doing it. We were too many tangents and we were like go off on a polemic about something. But this has been great. Thank you all so much for listening. Get out there, organize, learn something. The
Learn
best thing I
Excel.
can push you.
Learn Excel.
Learn
I,
Excel.
I'm pointing at the camera even though this isn't going to be a video episode, but learn Excel.
I think you guys need to read. I know it's hard. I know everybody's attention span is minimal. Try and read. Try and read anything. I don't care. I want you to start with the manifesto. Once you finish that, go in any direction you want. But read something.
We will be doing if Greg can get his hands on it, we will be
My
doing
hands on it.
we will be doing a book club episode after this on Phil Neal's Hinterland. It is an excellent read. It is extremely easy to read. It is relatively short. You can find a PDF of it online super easily. Honestly, it's as good a start as any. And even if you just read one chapter, the first chapter is one of the best analyses of American reaction I have ever read. highly recommend it. So
Absolutely, absolutely. I also think one thing I want to do before we go is I want to say I want to get someone who's well read in feminist literature on because I want to
yes,
rip apart Dworkin a little bit
okay,
because she's a massive Zionist.
yeah, that
I want to talk
fits.
about how like that ties into like third wave feminism. Anyway,
Mm,
um, this has been a wonderful episode. Thank you so much again. Obviously, John, my co-host.
of
I'm
course,
Greg. You can find us at Gorilla Radio Show and Red Connections. We're on Twitter. We're on Twitter. Um,
we're on
but yeah,
Twitter until it collapses.
we're on Twitter. You can send us an email at redconnections1917@gmail.com if you got questions, concerns, anything you want to talk about. Go for it. Also, shout out Alex. I told you I would do that. But yeah, have a wonderful rest of your day, night, whatever the fuck you're doing when you're listening to this. Goodbye.
See ya.